All right, we are live. Yeah. Okay, it looks like we're having some technical issues on Nia's end with the audio, so I'll go ahead and take the introduction here.
I'm sorry, I'm here now, sorry.
Okay, thank you, Nia.
It's my pleasure to introduce one of America's leading experts on exhibiting success. Since 1985, he's executed over 200 trade shows and is continually researching and exhibiting strategies and best practices of highly successful companies. He is the president of Competitive Edge, a Charlotte, North Carolina-based exhibit marketing consulting and training firm. Since 1991, he's helped his exhibiting clients turn around their exhibiting programs from expensive appearances into profitable investments. His clients have realized over $700 million in combined results from trade shows. Here today to present our webinar is Jefferson Davis.
All right, thank you, Nia, and again, thanks everybody. The subject matter for today's webinar, I think, is possibly one of the most important topics if your company is looking to generate hard dollar return on investment. We're going to go through how to improve your lead management focused on trade shows for higher conversion, sales, and whatever action you want them to take. So we've got Nia with DDW and Deidre Crawford with DDW. I'll be your presenter, Jefferson, and we also have Steve from Convention Data Services who will just give you an overview of the lead systems. So let's go ahead and jump in. You know, most shows, honestly, like all of you, I've done a lot of shows, and I always felt like the only time I heard from the show organizer was when they wanted a check, or they wanted to sell me something, or they sent me the service kit telling me all that stuff I had to do. Well, DDW's philosophy is to not just rent you concrete and hope it works out. They provide education as an ongoing part of your exhibits package. You will see on the screen the Exhibitor Success and ROI Center, and there's a ton of content up there. We've organized the content. There's strategic planning exercises, which I feel are must-dos for every exhibitor. There's downloadable tools. There's webinars, both live and replays, and we've organized a series of white papers by subject area or topic. So the takeaway is bookmark, share it with everybody on your team, and be sure to visit often because we're continually updating. So as Nia mentioned, my background, I'm really honored to be part of the DDW Exhibiting Success team as trade shows. I got tossed into my first show in 1985. Became a student of exhibiting in 1988, launched a company called Competitive Edge in 1991, and wow, have things changed with regard to trade shows over this 30-year run. And my mission is to try to keep every exhibitor up to speed on the latest and best thinking, how to make your exhibit program productive and profitable. So let's get started here talking about leads. Okay, so whatever leads you capture at the show, and if you happen to have a product or service where you're writing orders, it's just the tip of the iceberg. What you can get over time with good lead management will blow your mind. Again, I've been involved in, now we're pushing almost $800 million in results, and very few of the companies that I work with are selling at the show. So we've really figured out some of the best practices on how to really manage your trade show leads. So let's start off with talking about it and kind of get our mental pumps primed. First of all, when you think about value your exhibit program delivers for your company. How important are leads? And how do you currently capture them? We're going to do a poll in a little bit, but jot down right now the process you use to capture leads or the tool. And finally, do you know what becomes of your leads? So if you're in marketing and you capture leads and you hand them to sales or dealers or distributors, do you know what becomes of them? Or do they kind of go into what I call the lead black hole, right? They just disappear. Okay, and these are some of the key questions that we're going to be working on in our time together here today. So let's talk about what's happening with lead management, because some of these statistics, shocking would be an understatement for some of the stats I want to share with you. Okay, so number one, the big idea here, as I mentioned, is that if you're not writing orders at the show and you ever hope to get hard dollar return on investment, the real product is leads. Okay? According to the Center for Exhibition Industry Research, 87% of the leads captured on a trade show floor are never effectively followed up. 76% of salespeople that receive trade show leads view them as cold calls. And 43% of buyers who attend a trade show with near future purchase intent say that they finally receive information from exhibitors after they've made the buying decision. So there's a big disconnect here. You know, if you ask most exhibitors, what are your top 3 reasons for exhibiting, leads are usually in the top 3. And yet, you look at these statistics and you wonder what's going on here. How can this be? Why is there such a disconnect between why we say we're exhibiting and what we're actually doing? I think the problem starts with the perception of trade show leads and the value. It also starts with the capture process. And honestly, in my 27 years now as a consultant trainer, working with hundreds and hundreds of companies, many medical companies, I'm amazed that very few exhibitors actually can close the loop on their leads. Most exhibitors don't know what's really becoming of their leads. So let's try to close these gaps and let's take care of these issues so you, right, get maximum value and ROI from the show. Okay, so there's what's going on here, right? You look back at this and you say, how can this be happening? Well, the first problem is the perception of trade show lead quality. I saw a cartoon years ago in Business Marketing Magazine. It said, question, what's the difference between most trade show leads and a fortune cookie? And it said, answer, the fortune cookie might come true. Well, there's a little humor to that. That's a pretty scary thought, that the people that are receiving the leads are viewing them as junk. And I understand why that is. Me and my team, we do a program called E3, Exhibiting Effectiveness Evaluation. We have done an in-depth evaluation of 23,600 exhibits over the last 6 years, meaning we've walked in that many booths. You would be amazed how many people run up to us. We have a black apparel on. We've got an iPad in our hands. Our badge says show contractor. Can I scan your badge? Click, scan it, and walk away. I'm not a lead, right? And so this company is going to go, we got like 1,000 leads at this show. Did you really? Right? I mean, if you're just like randomly scanning any breathing person that gets in or near your space and you're calling that a lead, we got to work on that. We totally have to change that behavior. Second is the marketing and the sales disconnect, the silos that we're operating in. Marketing is booking and executing the show. Sales is being asked, or in some cases forced, to work the show. We got to understand we are both part of the same food chain here, the customer acquisition process. Marketing and sales have got to be on the same page. Number 3, the lack of professional exhibit staff training. 86% of the human beings that will stand in a booth have not had an hour of skills training in how to do that. It will force them to make behavioral and communication errors that are going to limit traffic, lead quantity, quality, and ultimately block the return on investment. Number 4, back to my first story, the lack of clarity on what a lead really is. You know, it's just scanning anybody and everybody. And finally, number 5, the lack of a closed loop lead management system. Now here's what's interesting about number 5. Many exhibitors actually are getting a significant return on their investment, but they can't track it. The reason they can't track it, they do not have a closed loop lead management system. So we're going to walk through some best practices on how to set up that closed loop lead management system. Okay, so grab your pen, grab a calculator. I want to run a few formulas with you here right out of the gate. We're going to calculate the cost of lead management. Okay, the first metric that every single exhibitor should be running, and amazingly very few are, is your cost per lead. It's a simple formula. Take your total show investment, divide it by the number of leads you captured, and you have your cost per lead. In my example, if I invested $25,000 and I captured 100 leads, my CPL, as I call it, my cost per lead, is $250. Next, calculate what you stand to gain or what you stand to lose by not managing your leads properly. So if you will take your average sale amount as a starting point, in my example, 5,000, and the number of leads you captured, in my example, 100. And if you're doing this right, you should be converting 20 to 30% of your leads to business over time. I'm going to use 25%. So if we follow up, I stand to gain 125,000 or more. If we don't follow up, I stand to lose $125,000 or more. I'm handing that business to my competition. Now, outside of the money and the cost, how does not following up with a visitor impact your company's brand perception in the market? One of the biggest things we hear in the post-show attendee surveys is that exhibitors are not following up. And here's the problem with that. Not only is it limiting the value that your company might be getting, but equally important, it's limiting the value that the attendee gets from their time in the exhibit hall. So here's my philosophy on leads. If you're not going to follow up on the lead, don't take it. Don't take it. Look them in the eyes and say, sir, ma'am, based on what you've told me, I don't think we're a match, and send them somewhere else. Because people talk. And with social media today, the ability to talk about your company and not following up is at the push of a button and can be in front of thousands of people. So that should be the trade show rule. If we're not going to follow up on the lead, we're not going to take it. So let's talk about closed loop lead management here. It really breaks down into 4 phases. The first phase is the capture process. Quality, not quantity. How do we define quality? Information rich, more than just what's embedded in the badge, and a commitment to a next action. That's quality. Number 2, you've got to move the leads quickly from the capture in the booth into your CRM, into the hands of the person or people who are responsible for following up. And today, with technology, that can happen instantaneously. Then, you got to make sure that the leads are actually being followed up on. Somebody's doing something with it. Following up on the promise. And number 4, you got to make it easy. If you're going to close the loop, you got to make it easy for the people receiving your leads to report the progress and the ultimate sales conversion. So here's what I'd like to ask you. If you had to score your company's current effectiveness on these 4 phases, and that score was a 1 to 5, 5 very effective, a 1 ineffective, how would you score your company right now with your current process and practices on how you're addressing these 4 phases? 1 to 5. Go ahead and do that now. Anywhere that you score below a 4 is your limiting factor. It's the breakdown in your closed loop system. I'm going to give you tips, best practices to deal with all 4 of these. Your job for the rest of this webinar is to find the practices that apply to you and put them to work for the upcoming DDW. Okay, so here we go. Number 1, define what isn't and what is. See the image on the screen? A fishbowl with some business cards in it? A lot of companies will call those leads. I don't call those leads. You know what I call those? Contestants. Chances are, drop your business card here to be entered in this or get this or that. Those aren't leads, right? So, randomly scanning somebody's badge with no engagement, no attempt to capture more information. That's not a lead. It's a scan, swipe. I wouldn't call it lead. You know what I'd call a lead? 4 things. Personal interaction, questions asked, answers documented, next step, identified and agreed to by the visitor. That's a lead. Give me 500 business cards in a fishbowl. I'll be lucky to convert 1 of those to business. Give me 50 leads that match these 4 criteria. I'll convert 20 to 30 of these to business consistently. It's all in how you define it. So here's your takeaway. Before your next show, talk with your booth staff. Tell them when you say lead, this is what you mean. Everybody will know what is and what isn't. And if I quit right now and only gave you that, you would be on your way to a more effective lead management process. Number 2, set realistic lead goals. We use a formula called exhibit interaction capacity. It is an accurate way to calculate the number of face-to-face interactions you can execute. Here's the formula. It'd be helpful if you did this right now for the upcoming DDW for your company. So DDW has 19.5 exhibiting hours. That's your playing field. How many people are going to be standing in your booth on average for the purpose of talking to visitors over those 19.5 hours? Staffing rule of thumb, 50 square feet per exhibitor. And so in this example, you have 39 staff hours. Listen carefully to this next variable. Set a target number of interactions per hour per staffer. 3 conservative, 4 moderate, 5 aggressive. I'm going to use 3. And I think when you first start using these formulas, you should err on the conservative side. So I will have 117 interactions in my booth. Not all of them are going to convert to a lead. The benchmark, according to the CEIR study on exhibitor ROI practices, 1 out of 4 convert to a lead. I now have a crystal clear lead goal. 29 qualified leads by closing time. I can manage my team with that. I can set expectations, and you'll be amazed when you start to use a formula like this how accurate this is, as long as the numbers you're using are accurate. I'm throwing a lot of information at you quickly. I'm imagining some of you have questions, so the moment a question flashes in your mind, look on your console. You'll see a tab that says Questions. Click it, type your question, press send. All right, let's keep rolling. So far, we've talked about defining a lead, and I've given you a mathematical, proven formula on how to set accurate and realistic lead goals. Remember this, trade shows are about face, and trade shows are about next. What happens next? So clarity of the next action and the visitor's commitment to take that action are the critical leverage points. As it says in the scripture, ask and ye shall receive. So speaking of asking here, you should ask your sales team, your dealers, your distributors, however you go to market, you should ask them what information, if we were to capture this at the point of contact, would help you better value, appreciate, and make you want to follow up on leads. Here's my first big idea. Get more than what's embedded in the badge. For example, you may want email addresses. They may or may not be in an individual attendee's badge when you scan it. There's so much that you could be capturing. What their product interest is and how strong the interest is. This person's role in the evaluation of the decision. The team. Who else is involved? The competitors that they're currently buying from or maybe looking at. Maybe there's a purchase time frame to this, what they're thinking about. You definitely should talk about the next step and anything else that you want to capture. Here's the big idea. Write this down. You may never have this chance again when you're standing face to face to talk to this person. Don't squander the opportunity. It may never come again. Once you identify what information you want to capture, integrate it into your lead capture device. This will radically improve the quality of the leads you're capturing. Now, many of you, maybe you're in marketing and you hand the leads off to a sales team. Maybe you're a manufacturer and you have an independent rep group. Maybe you sell through dealers or distributors. Got to find a way to get them not only to follow up, but to report. Number one, let them know that you are into total lead quality improvement. You are working on a process to massively improve the quality of the leads you get. Number two, calculate and share your cost per lead. For example, $250 you paid. So if you hand a rep 10 leads that you paid $250 for, that is the exact same thing as handing them $2,500 of your company's capital. I think they should know it. I think they should treat it exactly as if you handed them a check and said, hey, I need this check to be in the bank by next Friday. Same idea. Set 3 clear and firm post-show reporting dates. And if you have a CRM system and you can tag these in as an action in your CRM, do it. 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, 45 days, 90 days, 180 days, whatever makes sense for your sales cycle. If you want to jumpstart this and get people playing along, put a contest in play. A lot of companies really lack a culture of reporting accountability. Contests are a great way to start it. The person who gets the highest number of qualified leads by closing time wins X. You know those 3 firm dates? Tie a contest to each one of those dates. The person who gets the highest number of their leads to an in-clinic or visit wins something. The person who gets the highest number to a proposal within 90 days wins something. The person who converts the highest percentage of their leads to orders wins something. A great way to get it jump-started. Watch how fast your follow-up and your reporting goes up. And this is a little bit of a rogue idea here, but I tell you what, if you're paying $250 for a lead and you're sending them off to people who aren't following up, you might consider charging for leads. Say, hey, we've radically improved the quality. We paid $250 for these leads. We need you to follow up on them. The charge is $50 per lead. Question: if someone pays you $50 or $100 for one of your leads, what are the odds they're going to follow up on that lead? Answer: 100%. So some ideas to get people to play along with you here. Okay, talk about capture. Okay, there are 4 generations of capture devices. Number 1 is the business card. Right? You just take business cards. Number 2 is you have your own paper lead form. Number 3, you rent the show's capture system. Number 4, you own your own lead capture system. So I want to do a poll here. I'd like to find out, how are you, everybody on this webinar today, how are you currently capturing trade show leads? Take a moment, click the radio dial button that applies. And I'll give you just a moment here. All right, we're at over 90%. Thank you so much for your help. I'm going to share the results so everybody can see the current practices of your colleagues. You won't know individually who, you'll just see as a group, okay? So, 8% of you are at business cards. Now, what's the problem with a business card? Number 1, what if the attendee's not carrying cards? You're dead in the water. Business cards end up in people's pockets and they disappear. Number 3, how much data can you capture on a business card? Not much, right? So if you're in the first generation, move a generation or 2 forward. Number 2, paper lead form. This is better than a business card, right? Because you can create your custom qualifiers and everything else. But the problem is handwriting, people's handwriting. A lot of people write like doctors, right? And then somebody's got to manually enter all this data. They got to get it into your CRM and get it out. Number 3, 67% of you are running the system, and that's good. Here's the area of improvement for the 67% who are running the system. Get custom qualifiers. On average, only 7% of exhibitors use custom qualifiers. Tailor the device to fit your process. And for some of you, number 4, nobody's on this, but if you do a lot of shows, it may be worth looking into a universal. Not always, but it may. Okay? So what I want to do is just, I'm going to bring Steve on with CDS, and please hang with us. I've got 4 more best practices. And this is not a sales pitch at all. Steve just wants to make sure that you're aware of the options that are available to you at DDW. Steve?
Thanks, Jefferson. Hello, everyone. I'm Steve Brove. I'm with Convention Data Services, and I'm just going to give you a brief overview of our Express Leads lead retrieval options. So essentially, we have 3 options, and they work out in various packages. But essentially, there are 3 technologies. It's either the Express Connect app that you'll use on your own smartphone or tablet, or you can get the Express Connect Plus, which is our handheld. It's a Samsung Galaxy phone. We have the app already installed on it. We give you a charger so you can charge it either locked up in your booth at night or back in your hotel room overnight, and that should work the whole day. And then our 3rd option is the Express Connect Elite, which works on PCs, Macs, laptops, and it also works on the Windows Surface Pro tablet. And with the Connect Elite, we give you a USB scanner with a USB connection to plug into your device and scan the QR codes on all the badges. So we put a QR code in everyone's badge, and behind that QR code are 5 fields. It's badge ID number, event ID, company name, first name, and last name. All the rest of the data lives up on the registration server with all the contact and demographics. But what the app does is it's programmed to ping that registration server and get all that information and bring it down to either your device or one of our devices. And in that same moment, it's using either local Wi-Fi or cellular to upload your leads to our website, and it builds your leads in an Excel spreadsheet format that you can download anytime during or after the event. We keep the leads up available for download up to 60 days after the event. But we know a lot of companies like to download it every night. They set up email blasts ahead of time thanking people for visiting their booth, and they can download those leads and send out email blasts nightly. Also wanted to mention, I know Jefferson touched on that personal touch, the exhibitor interaction. We have all kinds of great follow-up features with all of our lead retrieval technologies. We have a 5-star rating system. A lot of people like to use the 5-star rating system. That'll also be included in your Excel spreadsheet. We have the ability to take notes. All of our devices will allow you to take notes. If you're using your own device or the Express Connect app on your own smartphone or tablet, or one of our Express Connect Plus devices, it does have voice to text, so you can even hit the microphone and speak your notes. Fast, effective way to take notes. There's also the ability to set up sales qualifiers, as Jefferson also touched on. We have the ability to upload up to 40 sales qualifiers customized to your company's products or services. You can even list out your sales reps, and there'll be a checkbox next to each one, so you can select products of interest, or maybe which sales rep they spoke with, etc. The other way you could do it too, we also have the option, instead of doing sales qualifiers for follow-up, you would also have the ability, if you wanted to go a little bit further in the sales process, you could do survey questions and answers. So you could have up to 40 questions with unlimited answers. So each question and survey answers would be on its own page, and you would just swipe back and forth between those different ones. So for those companies that want to use their own lead retrieval, whether they rented from a third party or maybe they purchased a solution on their own, we do have options available, so you can get all that data that's behind the QR code. We have either data conversion service, and we have event API integration. And the data conversion service is where we would get your lead file after the show. We would then marry it to the database, get all of the missing data, and then email it back to you after the show. And that goes for $550. Or we have an event API integration for $1,000. And that would give you a key to get into the database. Every time you scan a badge, you get instant access. It bounces right back with all that missing contact and demographic information to your third-party lead retrieval device. So those are the solutions that are available. I want to recommend, if you're going to rent from us, our lead retrieval, take advantage of the early bird deadline. It's a week from tomorrow, so April 12th will be the early bird deadline. And then our advanced deadline will be May 10th. So just 2 important dates to keep in mind. And if you have any questions at any time, I'm Steve Brove. I'm available. Jefferson's going to put up a slide with my contact and demographic information. And I'm available if you even want to have a webinar dedicated to lead retrieval questions. Maybe you want to get your sales team in a room before the show. I can walk through all the different solutions. I do work with a lot of companies that like to rent the app. It seems that that's the way the industry is trending, is that more and more people are getting the app for their own smartphones and tablets, and it enables more of their salespeople to have their own device that they're familiar with and then can scan, more readily. So that's what I would recommend, is the app on your own device. It seems to be the most plausible way, most effective. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Jefferson. Thank you very much for your time.
All right, Steve. Yeah, hey, great job on explaining the different options. And, sometimes exhibitors will look at lead retrieval and they'll go, oh, geez, it's another expense. But here's what I want you to think about. So an attendee walks into your booth. They interact with your staff. They're interested in what you do. They hand you their badge to scan. You can't scan it. I want you to stop for a moment and put yourself in the attendee's shoes and wonder what might be going through their mind. in that moment when they say, seems like everybody else can, I wonder why these guys can't. I don't think it's very good first impression, and I know there's an investment in it, but you don't get a second chance to make a first impression. So if you're not using electronic lead capture, you might think about what I just mentioned there as another reason as to why having some form of an electronic capture system is really important. So with that, we've covered a lot so far. So any questions that have flashed into your mind, now would be a really, really good time to kind of gather yourself, type your question, press send. And while you think about that, I'm going to cover a few more practices, and then we'll pick up your questions on the back end. Now, what I'm showing you here on the screen is how to customize your capture device or, again, I'm a strong advocate for the electronic system, but there may be scenarios where it just isn't going to work for you at all. And so you'll see an example on the screen of how to think through the flow of information. The first thing you capture is the contact information, which is embedded in the badge. I like to capture the visitor's relationship with my company. Is it a customer? Is it a prospect that's in the sales funnel? Is it a new opportunity or what? If you're doing pre-marketing, which I strongly encourage you do, why not ask how they learned about your exhibit? Then you can get into your situational questions about the visitor, the type of practice, the specialty, the current procedure or process or supplier or vendor. And then you can start zeroing in on what the problems or the opportunities are. And then you can capture your harder qualifiers, things like budget, time frame, role-in evaluation. And finally, you'll capture what the next action is and when it should happen, and always have open space for notes. You'll notice also on the bottom I put a priority, ABC, and lead taken by. So this gives you a nice framework to think through what you should be capturing, in what flow, and how to customize your device. Next, not all leads are created equal. I think it's really important that each exhibitor set up a grading system. So the first thing is, what information is going to help you assign value? In this example, I'm using time frame, budget, and buying role. So I have 3 codes here. I'm going to put a little depth structure on what these codes mean. Time frame, 0 to 3 months, 4 to 6, 7 to 9. Right? And then I want to make sure that whatever my grading qualifiers are, that they're embedded in the capture device. And I've trained my staff and positioned these as must-ask questions. Now, when the show's over, you don't have to guess, is this an A, B, or C? You've got a solid matrix, a grading system. Next, somebody's got to drive the ship here. Somebody's got to wear the hat of the lead captain, and they're making sure that everybody knows the goal. They're making sure devices are available and functioning. They're monitoring the performance on a shift-to-shift, day-to-day show. Are we ahead or are we behind? They're acknowledging people who are doing well, and they're correcting those that aren't performing. They might be the point of contact for making sure the data gets into the CRM and routed. They might even be the post-show reporting contact. And here's the thing. If return on investment is the name of your game, lead management is the playbook. Somebody's got to carry the playbook. That's your lead captain. Okay. Next, building that culture of reporting. Calculate your cost per lead. If you are sending leads to a territory manager who reports to a district or regional manager, CC them. Let them know, hey, I sent Michael 10 leads. Our cost per lead was $250. We talked about contests and how to jumpstart that. The end of shift or the end of day quick lead review meeting is a must-do. Circle the team, take 10, 15 minutes to go over the how much data we captured, what we're not capturing, are we ahead or we're behind, who do we need to follow up with like right now, right? So hold that quick recap meeting. And then for you, the exhibit manager, the close of show report, communicating your goal, your actual, your cost per lead, breaking them down by number and priority, and estimating the potential revenue value of your leads. Okay, and that's what you want to do as the exhibit manager. Lead response management. First responders win, according to this study in the Harvard Business Review, first responders win over 40% of the deals. Be first, move fast. The beauty of the technology, like Steve mentioned, the ability to embed your follow-up and thank you copy email, upload PDFs, and instantaneous response. That's impressive. When it comes time to make phone calls, Wednesday and Thursday are the best days to follow up on leads, and the best time of day is between 4 and 5 p.m. Share this with your sales dealer distributors. The average exhibitor stops after 2 follow-up attempts. Don't stop short. By making a few more attempts, you not only can increase the contact with the visitor, but the conversion rate by as high as 70%. That's important. Finally, your follow-up techniques. You want to wow people. You want to stand out from the crowd, and you want to be there not just when you're ready to sell, but when they are ready to buy. So, get your follow-up plan together before the show. The reason I like to break it down into A, B, C, because each one of those tracks will have a predefined follow-up plan. Move fast, or in line with the visitor's request. You know, if you're at a May show and the visitor says, hey, we're not going to really be seriously ready to look at this until September, I would still send them something, but I would make sure I show up in September. Plan 6 to 12 touches over the next 3 to 6 months and use multiple media. Do not give people email fatigue. Mix it up. Use email, mail, telephone, social media, maybe even in-person visits. And be sure to deliver value. One of the things that the medical community loves is reference guides. They also love educational content, whether it's physician, staff, or even patient content. You can use social media, newsletters, case studies, testimonials if you get them, videos. Don't just sell on every touch. Be the fountain from whence all knowledge flows on your topic. Communicate in an educational, supportive manner over time. Build trust, build familiarity, showcase your expertise. All right, so we have covered a lot of ground here. I'm going to take a look in the question queue. And while I do that, I'm going to toss it back to Mia for any additions or any thoughts on anything we've talked about here today with the exhibitors, and I'll take a look in the question queue. Okay, the first question that I see is what were the percentages of capture for people on this webinar? 8% were using business cards, 8 or 9%. I did flash that, I believe, on the screen. I believe 20 some percent were using paper, and 60 percentile were using the electronic capture device. Nobody said that they had a universal capture system. The next question is, how fast should I follow up? I believe the faster you acknowledge, the better, but I'm a huge believer in getting the visitor to collaborate on what happens next, when they would like that to happen, and who besides themselves should be involved in receiving information. The next question is, how many qualifiers should I use? Less is more, but not too few. You want to be in that maybe 4 to 9 range, beyond contact information, beyond name, address, practice, all that, in terms of your qualifiers, I would be in the 4 to 9 range. If you get much past 9, it can feel a little cumbersome. And organize your qualifiers in the natural flow of conversation. The first few should be about them. Tell me about your practice, and what do you do with the practice, and how are you involved in this or that, and what are some of the challenges or problems that you're having. And then you can start moving into your product interest and then your back end in terms of influence, time frame, budget, and so on. All right, well, that is all I'm seeing for questions. So on behalf of Steve and Mia and Deidre, we want to thank you so much for being an exhibitor. We want to thank you for logging in. Find 3 specific ideas that you will put into work for this upcoming Digestive Disease Week, and you will improve both the quality of your leads and the ultimate conversion. So be sure to use the rest of the resources on the Exhibitor Success and ROI Center, and reach out to any or all of us at any time with questions. So thank you much for logging in today. This concludes our webinar on improving trade show lead management. Have a great day, everybody.